Hey there, this is just a short video. I wanted to give a little bit of a update pertaining to the last couple chapters of my book Song of Mornius. I was noticing last night that some of the more recent chapters have 4 likes. Not 3 or 2, but 4. This has kind of made me like, oh my gosh, I have 4 people reading, or listening, I should say. It's not really reading, listening to my book. It kind of makes me think I really need to get my act together and finish the thing, But yeah, I'm very flattered that I have now apparently 4 people. I don't know if those 4 people have read the whole thing, or if they've just read, or I keep saying read, have listened to the whole thing, or if they have listened to just the more recent chapters. But it's really flattering to me that people would give them their time to listen to a book that is in its rough draft. And unpublished, from an unpublished person. I've published short stories, and that was a long time ago. And those weren't in the fancy magazines. Those were in what are called, or were called at the time, fanzines. So when I say I'm published, I've published short stories. I'm not talking about something that's very impressive. It's very hard for a new writer to be published. I'm hoping that if Twilight's author can do it, that's my inspiration. It's like, if that crap can publish, there has to be some hope for me. But anyway, I just want to let people know that yes, I am working on chapter 50. I stopped for a while because I had this horrific cold that actually cost me a job. This kills me. This pisses me off so bad. I had a job. I had a temp job set up by a temp agency to work in downtown Seattle, and it would have paid $19 an hour. And the weekend before I started my job, I started getting this cold. And despite that, I went out and I got myself a new outfit. I got a new purse and new shoes and a new lunch bag and all these things, so I would impress on my first day. But I continued to get sicker. And that weekend before I started my job, I stopped. I didn't drive for Uber or Lyft. I stayed home. I got all the medication I could, medicated my brains out. And on Monday morning, when I was supposed to start my first day, I got up, got dressed, went through all the things I do before I need to go to work. And I went out to the bus that was supposed to come at 6:20. Well, the bus came at 6. I was at the intersection at 6:18, and I could look down. The bus stop was a half block down the street, and I could see the bus stop. I could see there was no bus. I could see there were no people lined up. Usually there's a long line, and this is at 6:18 according to my phone, and I'm pretty sure my phone's time is accurate. Bus is supposed to be there at 6:20. So I parked my car and I go to the bus stop, and I'm the only one there, and then somebody comes up behind me and says, well, bus already came. So I'm still kind of pissed off about this. So then I live about 25 minutes away from Seattle, and I'm medicated from all this medication for my head cold. Not really thinking it's a good idea to drive under the influence. So my options are call in sick and spare my new employees, my new coworkers, I should say, not employees, my new coworkers getting this horrible cold, or show up late and sick, showing complete inconsideration for the welfare of my new coworkers, and plus showing that I'm late. To me, it was like, no. So I didn't go. I called in. I called the agent and said, I'm sick. I can't go to work. Oh, she said, oh, I can really hear it in your voice how sick you are. Don't worry. I'll let them know. So I go back to bed, and it was about 11 o'clock. I get a call from the agent. Well, they really need somebody who's reliable, so they canceled the assignment. It was a $19 an hour job, which isn't a lot of money. It was about $1.20 less than what I used to make, but it was the closest I have come to that salary that I used to have. And it had a very good chance of becoming permanent because they really needed a new biller, but they didn't have any openings at that time. So they were bringing me in as a temp, hoping to be able to hire me in 3 months because I have excessive billing experience. So this is completely off the subject of my book. Let's just say that cold knocked me flat for 2 weeks. I still, honestly, have it. This weekend I started getting a sore throat again, and my interview, I'm getting to that. I guess this is turning into a stream of conscious video. I'm just rambling about various things, but believe me, it does have to do with my book too. What was I saying? Okay, sorry. I have this really important interview on Wednesday, and 2 days ago, I woke up with a really bad sore throat again, still 2 weeks later. So I went out and I got more medication, and I've been doing the Theraflu and the aspirin before I go to bed. Sore throat's gone. I'm feeling better. It's like, okay, big interview on Wednesday. And that's the other reason why I haven't been working on my book over the last 2 weeks. I've applied off and on through my life to be a bus driver for the city of Seattle, Metro Transit bus driver, transit operator, is what they call it. I've never made it through the assessment before. I tried to apply for the community transit bus job. They had 60 openings. I didn't make it through the assessment. The assessment contained new math questions. It's like, what does math have to do with driving a bus? But I don't know new math, and I didn't pass the assessment. And I'm pretty sure it's because of the fact that I guessed on those questions. But then I found out that Metro is hiring part-time transit operators, and they're looking to hire about 30. So I applied, and then I got invitation to come down and take the assessment. You have to go to downtown Seattle for this one to take the online assessment. So I did. And then I got an email 2 days later, and I'm like, oh, here comes the bad news. I brought up the email, and the first word is congratulations, and I just about fell off my chair. I actually passed the assessment. So I've been reading this. This is another reason why I'm not working on my book. I've been studying this for the last week. And tomorrow, I'm getting my hair cut today, because it looks like shit. It's probably going to be very short and hopefully professional looking. Tomorrow at 8:30 in the morning, I have an interview in Tukwila, which is like as far away from Seattle south as I am from Seattle north. So it's going to be a long drive on the freeway. And it's at 8:30 in the morning, and they say, dress professionally, and it's going to take about a half hour. And if you pass the interview process, that's what they call it. I'm like, what the hell does that mean? Interview process? If you pass the interview process, according to the email, then you are offered a conditionary offer of employment. And then that all hinges on whether you pass the CDL test. You have to get a CDL permit, and you have to take a test. That's why I'm studying this. You only get one shot. They don't let you retest. If you fail the first time, you get under 80% of the questions correct. You don't get to try again. So if you fail the test, then they rescind the employment offer. So that's the stages, and that's the whole thing with the test. Only happens if I pass the interview process tomorrow. I have no idea what that's going to entail. I talked to somebody last night working at Munchery who thinks what probably it is they have the kind of scenario questions. If this happens, what do you do? And basically, that's what he thinks that the whole test process, if you pass the test process, you have to give answers that they are looking for, basically, to their questions. Anyway, so I'm very nervous, but I'm also very hopeful, because if I work for the state, if I get this job and I'm working for the state, it pays, it's like $19.21 or something like that an hour, and that's just during the training. That's just as a trainee. And I believe even as a part-time employee, I would get insurance benefits. So this would be a huge answer to a lot of problems, a lot of things that have been weighing on me. It would be a wonderful thing if I get this job. So I'm really kind of distracted by this whole thing besides being sick. But then last night, here we go, back to the subject of my book. Last night I saw on a couple chapters 4 likes. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I have 4 people reading or listening. I keep saying reading, listening to my story. This is really cool. This makes me feel really good. This makes me feel great, actually. So today I went back and I looked at chapter 50. I haven't looked at it for a couple weeks. And being that I haven't looked at it for a couple weeks, I saw a bunch of things. I fixed a bunch of things. I think it's going to be a really good chapter now that I've kind of put it aside and, you know, now I've taken a deep breath and now I think I'm ready to just really put out a really good chapter. I think I said it in my last video about Mornius. It's the closing chapters after the climax. You know, they're so important, but I think they're kind of difficult to write. If you ever sing or if you ever know music, it's like when you sing really loud, you have to really project your voice, right? But the times when you lower the volume, you bring the volume down, you still have to have the intensity that you put into your voice when you project. You still have to have that intensity to hold the notes, if that makes any sense. You know, especially like in the higher octaves, if you want to hold those notes, you have to really have the push in your diaphragm. Even though you're keeping your voice quiet, that intensity needs to still be there. And that's kind of like my little analogy for how I feel that these last chapters or chapter, I'm pretty sure there'll be 2 more chapters. That's kind of how I feel it needs to be. It's like, okay, the big climax, the exciting whatever, you know, conflict stuff is mostly over with. But I feel like the intensity still needs to be there right to the very end. I want to have a bang at the end of my story. You know, I don't want it to just fritter out. I like the series, The Hunger Games, a lot. The movies are great. I'm kind of dreading how they're going to end it, though, because when I read the books, I really didn't like the last book because I felt like it just kind of fritters out. And that's not, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't remember it and I need to read it again, but I just didn't like the 3rd book very much. It was, to me, I don't know, it was like a whole different story almost than the first 2. And I felt like it just kind of went, you know? Another good example of a story that fritters out, and again, invoking a crappy, my opinion, crappy writing, are the Twilight books. The end is so pathetically weak. It just fritters out. When I was watching the movies, I was like, how are they going to end this? Because the last book was crap, and the ending was so bad. And what did they do to have a pop in that movie, in the last Twilight movie? They had a dream. They had this little battle. It was an exciting battle, but it actually never happened. They did this little whatever. To make the last movie exciting, they had to make up this imaginary battle so the movie would end with some kind of a pop, you know? And it was all imaginary. They had to do that because the writing was so horrible. I'm sorry. And I'm sorry, the woman who, I'm pretty sure it's a woman, who wrote The Hunger Games, much better writer than the one who wrote Twilight, in my opinion. But both books, in my opinion, so, and I think it's because they don't have the intensity. And I'm trying to think of a good movie that ends with a bang, that has the intensity. I'm trying to think of a good example. Harry Potter pretty much did. But even when you think about Harry Potter, you have now the books, I haven't read the last book of Harry Potter. I haven't read all the Harry Potter books, so it's hard to say. But the movie, I thought, the last movie I had some nits about. The scene when Harry battles Voldemort. Actually, the battle scenes at the end of the last Harry Potter movie were very disappointing. I'm trying to think of the woman who is Voldemort's little lapdog, the one who is so evil and the one who kills Sirius Black. I can't think of her name, though. Her death scene is supposed to... There's this huge battle that everybody watches it. I mean, it's like the whole school. They're like surrounded in a circle, and they're watching this battle between these two women. And anyway, I keep thinking Lestrange or something. I'm trying to think of her name, and I can't think of it, the evil witch character. But anyway, that battle in the book is so good, and in the movie it's just whatever. And the same with Harry fighting Voldemort. In the book, the whole school sees this huge battle, and it's a huge battle. And in the book, or in the movie, I think I got it backwards. In the book, it's a huge battle. Everybody sees it. In the movie, it's like completely... Nobody sees the battle between Harry and Voldemort. And then when Harry wins and he comes back into the school, it's like nobody acknowledges the victory. Nobody claps him on the back and cheers him as the hero that he is. It's very disappointing. And I just feel anticlimactic. You know, and that's a really good story. That was a really good series of movies and a really good series of books, but I didn't think the ending had the bang. A movie that does have a bang, the first Star Wars movie. You know, I mean, you have to have the end. And the end of Star Wars, if you notice after the big battle, is very short. You have the march and the awards of the medallions, and then the movie's over. Anyway, this video is getting to be very long. Again, another short video that gets to be very long. I don't think my ending will not be short like that, but I would like to have it carry on the intensity to the end, if that's possible. I want it to continue. I kind of want the climax and then kind of go down a little bit, because you can't hold the climax after a huge battle or whatever. You can't possibly maintain that intensity. So it will go down, but I kind of like it to go down just a little bit and then hold to the very end and not do this. You know? There is a bang at the end. Trust me, there will be a bang at the end of this book, and that's what I'm trying for. So, with that said, I am going to be working on Mornius. Once I get through this interview, I'm going to be... I actually did do some rewriting of Chapter 50 today. I'm going to start doing that, I think, as much as I can until Chapter 50 is done. I hate to end the book on an odd number. 51 chapters, I hate that. I hate that, but I suspect 51 will be the number. That Chapter 51 will be the last chapter. So, and it's already a long book. I'm hoping it's not too long. So anyway, that's where I am with Mornius. I really, really, really am flattered that people are listening to these chapters. It makes me feel really good. So, in fact, I listened to one yesterday, the one where Greville and Cray are on the beach hunting for the shell cones. I really like that chapter. It just makes me smile. You know, I don't know why. It's just a good little chapter. So anyway, if you've been listening to Mornius and paying attention to these videos about my book, I really appreciate it, and thank you for the support. It has been a huge motivation for me. I didn't want to rewrite this whole book. I didn't want to put all that... I mean, I had this thing this thick. The idea of retyping all that out again. Just, ugh, didn't want to do it. And knowing that I had people interested in the story and wanting to hear the next chapter was the motivation for me to do it. And I am so, so grateful to anybody who has been listening and just putting their little like, or just, you know, just a way for me to know that somebody's actually listened to it has been a huge encouragement. So thank you very much. If you've been watching, thanks. Bye.